Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about the old Catholic Church, how it's neither old nor Catholic. Now, before we begin, let's start with a prayer. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. All right, so some of you might have Googled, when you move to a town, Catholic churches nearby or something similar to that, and you perhaps have found a church that calls itself the Old Catholic Church. Titles can be deceiving. So the Old Catholic Church is a schismatic sect. Now, some of you are far right would be like, Gregory, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with being a schismatic sect? Because a lot of this sedevacanists would say that perhaps there's nothing wrong with that, given that the church in Rome is an apostasy and it's not the true church. Some in the SSPX would even adhere to this, even though the SSPX does recognize Francis as their pope. But either way, it is a schismatic group. It is a group that has its origins in kind of the Alpine regions of Europe, so Germany and Switzerland and that kind of area. And they left the church, and if you probably talk to them, they would tell you the church left them, right? Because that's what every breakaway group, says, whether it be Old Catholic, whether it be Calvinist, whether it be Lutheran. Because if you ever go to mainline Protestant churches, when they do say the Nicene Creed, and when they get to one Holy Catholic, you're asking, like, why are they saying that? Well, it's because they think that they're the true Catholic, meaning universal church, that they're the legitimate branch of the true church, because they needed the legitimacy, right? If Luther and Calvin had sold it at the time that they were a breakaway fringe group, people wouldn't have joined. But like, oh no, the papists, see, they were the ones who strayed, so we're the true lineage. Either way, so the Old Catholic Church left or broke away from Rome because of Vatican Council I. Now, many Catholics are familiar with Vatican Council II. That is a heated topic. We have a couple episodes on Vatican Council II, so we're not going to spend too much time on this. Vatican Council I happened in a very interesting time. This is during the unification of Italy, and that was not done by people that were favorable toward the Catholic Church. If you look at Camille Cavour, if you look at Garibaldi, if you look at the guys who were responsible for bringing the unification of Italy, they were largely powered by the left. Many of them were Freemasons, for example. Anyway, so in 1870, the only part of Italy that had not been that had finished the unification was Rome. It was being protected by Napoleon III and his troops, but Napoleon III pulled the troops out. And so Vatican Council I was convening at this time, and eventually it had to end quickly. It had to end prematurely, I should say. But the big dogma that came out of Vatican Council I, which is more of a reaffirmation of patristic thinking or early church fathers thinking, was papal infallibility. And we're not going to spend time on papal infallibility here. We've talked about it in other episodes. But the Old Catholics rebuked the idea of papal infallibility, and so they are like, peace out, see you later. So since that time, the Old Catholic Church, especially of more recent times, and I wouldn't say there's a lot of parishes of the Old Catholics here in the United States, but you might come across one. They've been ordaining female priests. Now, to be fair, in 1987, Ratzinger, who was the head of the Congregation, the Prefect of the Doctrine of the Faith, did say that the Old Catholics did have legitimate sacraments, and they did have legitimate apostolic succession, because their bishops were legitimate. And similar to the Orthodox, we believe that with the Orthodox. The Orthodox do have valid sacraments, and they do have valid apostolic succession. We do have an episode here on how the Anglicans do not, because the Anglicans changed their view of the priesthood. And so, sorry about that. They changed their view of the priesthood, so they lost that, and Pope Leo XIII mentioned that. We talk about that in the episode. So the Old Catholics, there's a caveat. They do have apostolic succession. They do have valid sacraments. I'm not telling you should go to these services because of that, but just for your information, they do have it. The issue now is that the ordination of female priests. So they are open to that, and they're open to other, what we would perceive to be liberal Catholic beliefs. But with the ordination of female priests, then those sacraments themselves that are done by female priests are not valid. And we have an episode here why the priesthood must always be with men. But if there's men doing the ordination, let's say the Eucharist, then the Eucharist is validly done. But if it's a female priest, anything done by the female priest, or theoretically if any of these female priests become female bishops, then any of the ordinations done by the female bishops are not valid, and therefore they don't have the ability to administer apostolic succession, so to speak, to the priest. And any sacraments that are done, whether it be confession or the Holy Eucharist, confirmation, whatever, are not valid if they're done by a female priest. So in closing, I would tell you probably stay away from the Old Catholic Church. I understand that they would argue and say that they have legitimate grievances against Rome. I think you will find that's the one unifying factor that everybody that is not in union with Rome, whether it be Protestant, Orthodox, or schismatic Catholics, would agree on, is that. But I would always tell you, look, Jesus gave the keys to Peter. We've had the succession of Peter, 264 popes since then, and he said that the gates of hell would never prevail, and that he would be with the church for all time. So as much as we are tempted, I guess traditional Catholics are tempted to either go Orthodox, and we have an episode here, 10 reasons why traditional Catholics shouldn't go to the Orthodox churches, or even the Old Catholic. As much as we're tempted because we see these innovations maybe in the typical Novus Ordo parish, stay with Rome. That is my humble advice to you. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you know anything about the Old Catholics, hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.